The Aries new moon arrives in a tight conjunction with Chiron in Aries. Let's talk about what that means. On April 1st, we have an incoming Aries new moon here to energize us and revitalize us, and particularly to the Aries sector of our chart. So, if you're familiar with your chart, think about the life topics associated with that house that Aries rules and how this might show up in your life. If you're not sure, you can join me on Patreon, where I go through each and every new moon. We go through every zodiac sign to highlight where the new moon is happening in your chart, as well as some of the other accompanying aspects. So this new moon conjoins Chiron. So we'll be talking about Chiron in Aries through this video. And you can listen for your sun sign and your rising sign. So you get two horoscopes for one. Anyways, we are going to first get into this new moon chart and what it represents. So yeah, as I mentioned, we do have this new moon exactly conjunct Chiron. It is tight. So normally Aries new moons are going to be energizing. They're going to be encouraging. They're going to be giving us that spark, that motivation to just go for it without second guessing ourselves. Because when we think about the impulse of Aries, it is that vibrancy that is available to us where we are in this space of feeling aligned with ourselves, trusting in who we are, and strong in that stance. And so there is no second guessing. It's just the go. It's just the go. But this element of Chiron tells us a different story. I remember not too long ago, I can't put my finger on what year it was, but there was also an Aries new moon, or maybe it was a full moon, conjunct Chiron, and I just remember not feeling the zest that Aries very often brings our way. It didn't feel like it at all. And I'm wondering if that's what many of us are going to be tapping into here with Chiron. So Chiron, of course, is the archetype of, quote, the wounded healer. I like Chiron. I liken Chiron to be much more than that. I think of Chiron as the divine outcast. Chiron was the centaur who never fit in. And because they never fit in, Chiron was like, why am I the way that I am? And that led Chiron to discover astrology, herbalism, alchemy, probably meditation, astronomy, and also trained many of the era's greatest warriors of the time. So Chiron was just this sage and this Renaissance. I mean, the Renaissance hadn't happened yet, but like Renaissance centaur, like dabbled in everything, was brilliant, was a healer, just helped empower people and helped guide people. So Chiron really is going to bring in themes of mentorship and guidance and also healing, So the other component of the story is that Chiron could heal everyone else, but when it came time to heal this one arrow wound, Chiron had a blind spot and Chiron just could not heal himself. And so that was really hard for Chiron. So we all basically, Chiron is going to speak to our humanity. We've all had experiences where we felt we didn't fit in or we didn't meet the expectation of the larger group or the collective. We've all had that experience somewhere. We've all, if not yet, we will have this sort of humbling human experience. And many of us have been through experiences that were really harmful and left that mark where that wound never closes. Because with Chiron, he could remove the arrow, but he was immortal. So he just kept bleeding. The wound just never closed. It just kept sort of reopening and was always sort of that constant reminder. And so we all have that Chiron experience where there is something that maybe just keeps coming back up, where we think we healed it and it comes back up, or it becomes relevant in a new way as we go through life and we gain different experiences. So I think Chiron is the process of healing. It is the process of healing because it doesn't happen overnight. And when we think about the chiropractor, if any of you have had the experience with the chiropractor, you got to go back. You got to keep going back. Sometimes you got to go back every week, then maybe every month, and maybe you can step away for a little while, but you eventually have to go back because you go out of alignment. And so, Chiron, the medicine of Chiron is that you have to continuously chip away. And as someone who has worked through my own trauma grief, it is something that is always a work in progress. And um, I can happily say, because of so much of the Chiron allyship I've had, I'm in such a good place with it. But it still comes up, and it probably always will, because the thing about these experiences is that they continue to be teachers and guides for us in the way that we move forward. I think that a lot of my own experience with my Chiron wound has helped me to become a better astrologer and a better counselor. And I don't know where my practice would be without that growth. So I'm continuously finding new ways to be grateful for it. And so maybe this new moon, because the new moon is an ending and a new beginning, maybe we can reach a threshold on our healing journey where we can develop we can rekindle a new relationship with our wound. Aries represents the hero's journey. We all have our own hero's journey, and every hero has that fall from grace. And then they eventually have to get back up, and they're a little more humanized. You know, these demigods, they're more humanized. They've been through the underworld, but then they get back up and they're like stronger than ever, and they reclaim themselves. So I liken this new moon to a claiming yourself. The other piece of wisdom that's been sort of whispering in my ear is that you don't have to, you don't always have to be like in this perpetual healing process either. Like, I think at a certain point on the journey, acknowledging that you've done enough work for right now, at least. And because I know so many people who are like very committed to their healing path, and I love that. But that can also be detrimental to us as well when we're so fixated on fixing ourselves. And I just want to remind you that not everything has to be fixed either. Sometimes we just have to accept ourselves for who we are, accept ourselves and our humanity. And yet, on the other side of the token, this Chiron new moon might remind you that the work isn't quite over, and it might say, hey, we need to do another round of this. We need to go back to the therapist for just to do a check-in. So sometimes I think that this new moon might like energize and enhance that experience that we have in a way that makes us say, hey, I got to get back on there. I got to keep up with this. I also think Chiron is all the healing modalities. It's not just the therapist. It's not just the chiropractor. It can be the astrologer. It can be the acupuncturist. It can be a physical therapist. It can be a tarot reader. It can be anyone, a friend, a mentor, an ally, someone who has helped you along the way, a coach, a counselor. Chiron could be any of those things. Maybe it's time to find a new modality. That's something I've been actually thinking about this week is there something new I can try? Is there something else I can do? And maybe it's not so wound centric. Maybe it's about just like our process. Our process. Chiron is about our process, and Aries is just ourselves and being our best self. And Aries is motivated too. So maybe there's something that we can sort of integrate, some sort of modality or mentorship that we can sort of integrate into our being in order to give back, put that energy back into our being and into our consciousness. So those are my primary thoughts with Chiron. But yeah, I think that like a lot of people will be feeling deeply sensitive around this Chiron new moon. I think it really is going to bring up a lot of stuff for people. And just hopefully we have the courage to pursue what we need for ourselves at this time. The other layer I just wanted to quickly integrate was that Mars rules this lunation, and Mars is in Aquarius. And Mars is headed for Saturn, by the way. But Mars in Aquarius is really cool, level-headed, objective. And so maybe if there is something kind of emotional coming up, Mars in Aquarius can help us kind of settle into our objective mindset and say, okay, well, clearly I'm feeling this way for a reason. What do I do about it? So Mars in Aquarius can help us to think cool-headedly and objectively about how we respond to whatever's coming up. But it's also group-oriented. So there's something about not feeling alone or not feeling like you have to go it along or alone or feeling a sense of belonging or community along the lines of your Aries Chiron journey. So that's a little bit about the new moon. If you want to know more about how this is showing up in your chart, definitely think about joining me over on Patreon for the extended sign-by-sign version. And for now, that was your astrology shot of the day. Take care. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. Book your next astrology reading with me by visiting my website, where you can also sign up for my newsletter and stay up to date on courses, events, and new articles. Bye.